Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. I found the email by accident. Or maybe fate has a twisted sense of humor, handing me the keys to Pandora's box on a mundane Tuesday evening. I was searching for an old receipt in Eleanor's inbox, something innocuous, when I stumbled upon it. A thread buried deep beneath years of digital clutter, its subject line innocent, deceptive. But it was the names that caught my eye, Eleanor and Marcus. Let me tell you, there's a cold sort of dread that settles in your gut when you're about to unearth a secret that could dismantle your life. I felt it then, a chill wrapping around my spine, urging me to look away. But I couldn't. I clicked. The words were a blur at first, my brain refusing to process the betrayal laid bare on the screen. They talked like lovers. The intimacy, the affection, it was all there, sketched out in pixels and pain. Marcus, my supposed best friend, and Eleanor, my wife of 20 years, ensnared in an affair that predated our marriage but was fresh enough to bleed. I never meant for you to find out this way, she said later, her voice a mix of resignation and fear. We were standing in our kitchen, a space that had once felt like the heart of our home, now tainted by the echo of her confession. Did you mean for me to find out at all? My voice was steady, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. I watched her, looking for any sign of the woman I thought I knew. Eleanor's eyes flickered away, guilt or perhaps regret painting her features for a brief moment. I was going to tell you, she whispered, a lie so frail it might as well have been a plea for absolution. The laugh that escaped me was bitter, hollow. When? In another 20 years. We stood there, suspended in the gravity of our unraveling, the silence between us heavy with the weight of unsaid truths and unasked questions. The realization that I was married to a stranger, someone capable of nurturing a lie so intimately intertwined with our lives, was suffocating. You have to understand, it was a mistake. A moment of weakness, she tried again, her voice steadier, but it was too late. The veneer of our life together had cracked, revealing the rot beneath. A mistake. I echoed, the word tasting like venom on my tongue. Sleeping with my best friend, keeping it a secret all these years, that's a moment of weakness? Eleanor flinched, as if my words were physical blows. But there was no solace in her discomfort, no satisfaction in the acknowledgement of her guilt. Only a deep, seething anger that threatened to consume everything in its path. The truth was out, a sinister shadow cast over what I once thought was a perfect life. Betrayal, the kind that festers and poisons, had made its home in the heart of my marriage. And as I stood there, facing the woman I no longer recognized, I knew that forgiveness was a foreign land, far beyond my reach. There would be no redemption, no return to the naive bliss of ignorance. Only the cold, hard pursuit of retribution. Because some sins, I realized, are too deep to bury, and some wounds never truly heal. I want a divorce, I said finally, the words cutting through the tense air between us like a knife. It wasn't a decision born out of haste or a momentary surge of anger. It was a calculated choice, a path forward from the ruins of what I once naively believed was a sacred bond. Eleanor's response was a soft, defeated sigh, a surrender to the inevitable. But there was no peace in this resolution, no sense of closure. Only the bitter taste of betrayal, lingering long after the words had been spoken. As I walked away, the fragments of our shattered life crunching underfoot, I couldn't help but wonder if the truth had always been hiding in plain sight, a silent specter watching over us. And in that moment, the path ahead seemed both terrifyingly unknown and oddly freeing, a chance to rebuild from the ashes of deceit. But first, retribution. For some wounds, after all, demand their due. The aftermath of my declaration was a slow burn, the kind that eats away at you from the inside, leaving nothing but ash in its wake. I watched Eleanor's facade crumble, her usual composure giving way to a raw, unguarded vulnerability. But pity was a luxury I could no longer afford, not after the revelation that shattered our shared history into fragments of doubt and deceit. I need to know why, I found myself saying one evening. The words came from a place of desperate curiosity. I need to understand the mechanics of our downfall. We were sitting across from each other in the living room, a physical distance mirroring the chasm that had opened between us. Eleanor looked up, her eyes searching mine for a sign of the man she used to know. It wasn't something I planned, she started, her voice a tentative whisper, as if afraid to shatter the fragile silence that enveloped us. Marcus was there when I needed someone, and one thing led to another. It was a moment of weakness, a mistake. A mistake. The word echoed mockingly in my mind, a stark reminder of the simplicity with which our lives had been unraveled. A moment of weakness? I repeated, the bitterness seeping into my tone. Is that what our vows meant to you? Just words to be discarded when the opportunity for a mistake presents itself. Her defensiveness rose like a tide. It wasn't like that. You weren't there. You don't understand the loneliness, the feeling of being abandoned. Her words were a plea, a bridge thrown across the divide in a desperate attempt to reach me. But the gap was too wide, the betrayal too deep. I wasn't there? I shot back, my voice rising with each word. Who was it that stayed by your side through every challenge, every hardship? Who was it that built a life with you, raised children with you? Was that loneliness too much to bear? The room pulsed with the tension of unspoken truths and unresolved anger. Eleanor's gaze faltered, unable to meet mine. I'm sorry, she murmured, the apology hanging in the air between us, too late and too insubstantial to bridge the chasm of our broken trust. Sorry doesn't undo the betrayal, I said, the finality in my voice a barrier against the swell of emotions threatening to break through. It doesn't erase the lies, the secrets. It doesn't change anything. We sat in silence, the words spent, leaving nothing but the echo of our shattered illusions. The realization that our marriage, once a bastion of love and partnership, was now a battlefield scarred by the wounds of betrayal and deceit, was a weight too heavy to bear. In that moment, I understood the true nature of our undoing. It wasn't just the affair, the physical act of betrayal, that had torn us apart. It was the lies, the omissions, the calculated deception that had eroded the foundation of our trust, brick by brick. The path to retribution seemed clearer now, a beacon in the storm of my rage and hurt. If Eleanor had sought solace in the arms of another, if she had chosen to weave a web of lies rather than face the challenges of our marriage head-on, then she would have to live with the consequences of those choices. As the evening gave way to night, the shadows in the room growing longer, I made a decision. There would be no forgiveness, no second chances. The love I had once felt for Eleanor, a love built on years of shared memories and dreams, had been irrevocably tainted by the stain of her betrayal. I would move forward, not out of spite or malice, but out of a newfound resolve to reclaim my life from the ruins of our marriage. The road ahead would be solitary, fraught with the echoes of what had been lost, but it was a path I was willing to walk. Because some revelations, once made, cannot be undone. And some wounds, no matter how deep, serve as a reminder of our capacity to endure, to rebuild, and to forge ahead in the face of adversity. It's a peculiar thing, facing the ghost of your past. It whispers of what could have been, of the turns not taken. I decided it was time to confront Marcus, to look into the eyes of the man who'd betrayed me, to demand the truth that had been denied to me. I found him at a bar we used to frequent together, a place that once symbolized camaraderie and escape, now tainted by the shadow of his betrayal. He looked up, surprise etching his features as I took the seat opposite him. Long time, no see, he said, a cautious edge to his voice. He knew, just as I did, that this was no casual reunion. I want the truth, Marcus. My words were direct, a sharp contrast to the maelstrom of emotions churning within me. Why? He hesitated, then sighed, the sound heavy with unspoken regret. It wasn't planned, you know? It just happened. The simplicity of his confession, the reduction of our shared history to a happenstance, fueled my anger. Just happened. I echoed, the scorn unmistakable in my tone. You betrayed me, Marcus. You and Eleanor. Did you think of me, even once, while you were at it? His gaze faltered, guilt shadowing his features. I did. Every damn time. But it was too late. We were in too deep. The revelation that their betrayal was not a one-time lapse but a series of choices, a deliberate entanglement, was a gut punch. And you thought keeping it a secret was the best course of action? I pressed, the need for answers, for any semblance of reason in the madness of their betrayal, pushing me forward. We thought it would spare you the pain, he said, his voice low. We were wrong. I'm sorry, truly. Sorry. The word was a bitter pill, insufficient and hollow. Your apology means nothing, I spat out, the taste of betrayal lingering on my tongue. You both chose this. You chose to lie, to deceive. You're as much to blame as she is. He didn't argue, the acceptance in his eyes a testament to the weight of his guilt. What are you going to do? He asked, a note of resignation in his voice. Do. I echoed, the question hanging between us, charged with the potential for vengeance. I'm going to ensure you both understand the depth of your betrayal. You've taken something irreplaceable from me, Marcus. Peace, trust, the belief in a shared future. I'll make sure the cost of that is clear. Our conversation dwindled after that, a tacit understanding that there was nothing left to say. The bond we once shared, forged over years of friendship, was irrevocably shattered. As I left the bar, the weight of the confrontation settled over me, a mix of satisfaction and sorrow. There was no joy in this vendetta, no triumph in the pain I sought to inflict. Yet, I couldn't turn away from the path laid out before me. Marcus and Eleanor had chosen their fate the moment they decided to betray me. It was a lesson they needed to learn, one I was all too willing to teach. The night air was cool against my skin as I walked, the streets empty and silent. In that moment, I was alone, truly alone, but it was a solitude born of clarity. I had faced my past, confronted the source of my pain, and emerged with a resolve hardened by betrayal. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with the shadows of anger and retribution. But it was a road I would walk, one step at a time, until the scales of justice, in whatever form they took, were balanced. The past could not be undone, but its lessons would not be ignored. The ripple effects of betrayal don't just stop with the betrayers, they extend, insidious and cruel, into the lives of the innocent. Our children, Alex and Mia, became unwitting casualties in a war they didn't enlist in. I never wanted that, never intended for my quest for clarity and retribution to touch them. Yet, in the cold, unforgiving light of reality, I saw the division in our family growing, a chasm widened by secrets and lies. One evening, as I sat at the dinner table with Alex and Mia, the weight of our new reality settled heavily around us. The absence of Eleanor, who had moved out earlier that week, was a gaping wound in what used to be a family united. "Dad, why isn't Mom coming home?" Mia's voice, small and uncertain, broke the silence that had enveloped us. She looked up at me, her eyes searching for an answer that would make sense of the senseless. I paused, the truth a heavy burden on my tongue. How do you explain to your children that the family they knew, the foundation upon which their lives were built, had crumbled? "Your mom and I. We're going through a difficult time," I began, the words feeling inadequate even as they left my mouth. Alex, older and more perceptive, wasn't satisfied with platitudes. "Did Mom do something bad?" he asked, his voice tinged with the beginnings of understanding. The question hit me like a physical blow, a stark reminder of the impossible position in which Eleanor and Marcus had placed me. "It's complicated, Alex. There were mistakes made, mistakes that we can't just move past," I said, each word measured, careful not to let my bitterness color their perception of their mother. Mia's face crumpled, a silent testament to the pain our separation was causing. "But can't you fix it? Can't we be a family again?" Her plea was a knife to my heart, a wish for a return to a normalcy that had been irrevocably shattered. I reached across the table, taking her small hand in mine. "I wish it were that simple, sweetheart. But sometimes, even when we want to fix things, we find out that some breaks can't be mended." The conversation shifted after that, moving to safer, more mundane topics. But the damage was done. The illusion of familial stability, once a comforting lie, was now stripped away, leaving us exposed to the harsh truths of our fragmented existence. Later that night, I found Alex standing by the window, his gaze lost in the darkness beyond. "Do you hate Mom?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The question stopped me in my tracks. Hate was a strong word, a toxic seed that, once planted, could grow into a life-altering force. "No, Alex, I don't hate your mom. I'm angry, hurt, but hate is too easy, too destructive. We're all trying to navigate through this mess the best we can." He nodded, though I could see the conflict raging within him, the struggle to reconcile the love he held for both his parents with the reality of our fractured lives. That night, as I lay in bed, the events of the day replaying in my mind, I realized the extent of the collateral damage my quest for justice had inflicted. Eleanor and Marcus had betrayed me, but in my pursuit of retribution, had I lost sight of the broader consequences? The pain I sought to inflict on them had spilled over, touching those I had sworn to protect. A family divided, not just by the physical absence of one of its members, but by the invisible, yet palpable, barriers of hurt and mistrust we had erected. As the night deepened, I was left to ponder the cost of vengeance, the price paid not in the currency of personal satisfaction, but in the tears and confusion of my children. In that dark, quiet hour, I began to question the path I had chosen, the vindictive and calculating pursuit of retribution. Was it worth it if the ultimate cost was the happiness and security of Alex and Mia? The answer, elusive and complex, haunted me, a specter of doubt in a battle I had once thought justified. In the aftermath of revelations and the bitter taste of confrontation, I found myself adrift in a sea of questions with no shore in sight. The fabric of my family lay in tatters, And with each passing day, the need for answers grew more desperate, an unquenchable thirst in the desert of betrayal I wandered. It was during these restless nights and aimless days that I realized the truth wouldn't be found in the remnants of my broken marriage or the hollow apologies of a friend turned foe. The answers I sought, the ones capable of quelling the storm within, lay deeper, buried within the confines of my own heart and soul. I turned to introspection, a journey inward that was as daunting as any confrontation I had faced. It was here, in the quiet solitude of self-examination, that I grappled with the hardest questions. Why had I been so blind to the signs? Could I have been a better husband, a more attentive partner? The questions were a torrent, unrelenting and merciless in their pursuit. In search of clarity, I sought out the counsel of those uninvolved, unbiased ears that could listen without judgment. A therapist, Dr. Adler, became my confidant, a guide through the labyrinth of my own psyche. Why do you think you need revenge to move forward? She asked during one of our sessions, her voice calm, inviting introspection. The question stopped me cold. Revenge had been a beacon, a guiding light through the darkness of betrayal. But as I pondered her question, I began to see the edges of an unsettling truth. My pursuit of retribution was not a path to healing, but a chain, binding me to the past, to the pain. I thought it would make me feel better, I confessed, the words tasting of defeat. I thought it would somehow right the wrongs. Dr. Adler nodded, her expression one of understanding. Healing doesn't come from inflicting pain on those who've hurt us. It comes from understanding, acceptance, and eventually, forgiveness. Forgiveness. The word was a foreign concept, an alien notion that seemed unattainable, yet as she spoke, I felt the faintest glimmer of possibility, a spark in the darkness. The journey didn't end there. With each session, each dive into the depths of my own thoughts and feelings, I began to unravel the complexities of my emotions. Anger, hurt, betrayal, they were all layers, masking the underlying fear of being alone, of being deemed unworthy of love. It was during a late-night conversation with my sister, and that another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. "You're not alone in this," she said, her voice firm, insistent. "You have us, your family. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." Her words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of my soul. In my singular focus on Eleanor and Marcus, I had isolated myself, forgetting the network of support that surrounded me. As the days turned into weeks, my search for answers shifted. No longer was I looking for ways to make Eleanor and Marcus pay for their transgressions. Instead, I sought understanding, a way to navigate through the storm of emotions that had threatened to consume me. There were no easy answers, no clear path forward. The complexity of human relationships, of love and betrayal, defied simple solutions. But in the searching, in the quest for understanding and healing, I found something unexpected, a sense of peace. This peace did not erase the pain or the betrayal. It did not mend the broken bonds of my marriage or restore my trust in Marcus. But it offered a foundation, a starting point from which I could begin to rebuild. And so, the search for answers transformed into a journey of healing, a slow, often painful process of coming to terms with the past and looking toward the future. In the end, I realized that the answers I sought were not about Eleanor or Marcus, but about myself, my strengths, my vulnerabilities, and my capacity for forgiveness. In the quiet aftermath of this realization, I understood that moving forward didn't require vengeance. It required courage, the courage to face the unknown, to forge a new path, and to open my heart once more, despite the risk of further pain. In the shadow of betrayal and amidst the rubble of what was once my life, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The journey had been grueling, a relentless march through anger, pain, and the unyielding desire for retribution. Yet, as I stood there, a realization dawned upon me, piercing the veil of my vendetta with the sharp clarity of the morning sun. It was time to step away from the path of vengeance and towards a new horizon. The decision wasn't easy. The pull of retribution had been a constant companion, whispering promises of satisfaction and closure. But as I looked around, taking in the collateral damage, the pain inflicted not just upon Eleanor and Marcus but upon my children and myself, I understood that true closure would not be found in the continuation of this cycle of pain. Where do we go from here? It was a question posed by Alex one evening as we sat, a semblance of a family, amidst the awkwardness that had become our dinner routine. His voice, uncertain yet hopeful, cut through the complexity of my thoughts, grounding me in the reality of our situation. I paused, considering my words carefully. "Forward, Alex. We move forward, not forgetting the past, but learning from it." My response, though simple, felt like a declaration, a commitment to a future unburdened by the chains of past grievances. Mia, ever the observant one, tilted her head, eyeing me with a curiosity that belied her years. "Does this mean you're not mad at Mom anymore?" she asked, her innocence a stark contrast to the complexity of adult emotions. The question stung, a reminder of the simplicity with which children view the world. "I'm learning to let go of the anger, Mia. Holding on to it only hurts us more," I admitted, my voice steady but soft, imbued with the weight of my realization. Their nods, tentative yet understanding, marked a turning point, not just for me, but for us as a family. It was a beginning, fragile and untested, but a beginning nonetheless. In the days that followed, I took steps towards rebuilding, not just the structure of our lives, but the foundations upon which they stood. Conversations with Eleanor, once charged with the electricity of anger and accusation, became more civil, grounded in the mutual recognition of our shared history and the need to co-parent our children in a healthy environment. It wasn't reconciliation, nor forgiveness, not yet, but it was a truce, an agreement to put the well-being of our children above the turmoil of our emotions. The journey towards this new horizon was not without its challenges. There were days when the anger threatened to resurface, when the siren call of vengeance whispered seductively in my ear. But with each step forward, the voices of the past grew fainter, their grip on my heart loosening. As I navigated this new path, I found solace in unexpected places. Conversations with friends, once avoided for fear of judgment or pity, became sources of strength and perspective. Solitary moments, once filled with the poison of ruminations on betrayal, became opportunities for reflection and growth. And in the quiet of the night, when the world slept and I was left alone with my thoughts, I found peace. Not the peace of resolution, for there were questions that would never be answered, wounds that would never fully heal, but the peace of acceptance, of the understanding that while the past could not be changed, the future was still mine to shape. The road ahead was uncertain, a horizon shrouded in the mist of the unknown. But I stepped towards it with a sense of purpose, a conviction that out of the ashes of betrayal and pain, a new beginning was possible. So, to you, dear reader, who has walked this path with me, who has shared in the pain of betrayal and the struggle for redemption, I leave you with this. The journey towards healing is not linear, nor is it without its trials. But with each step forward, each decision to choose the future over the past, we move closer to a new horizon, a place where the shadows of yesterday no longer cloud the promise of tomorrow.